Jesus Christ, this can't be happening. I mumbled those words under my breath after watching the tape of the creature and Joe. Joe went back to that house after I left and tried to save me, but in return, he was taken by the creature himself. All I could think was, every time I wished harm on Joe for something that he said or did, I'd take it all back just to make sure that he was safe. Thoughts spun around in my head like a merry-go-round. I knew time was of the essence, but I had no idea what to do or how to go about it. I had to go back. I had to save Joe. As I left my hotel room, every bad thought imaginable began to creep into my mind. From Joe being killed to the creature being loose outside of the house, I couldn't shake that bad feeling. When I had arrived at the house, the driveway was empty. No signs of Joe's red pickup truck, as I imagined. I rushed into the house to find the basement door ajar, which was a bad sign. I ran as fast as I could, screaming Joe's name. Joe! Joe! But I heard nothing in return. I swung the basement door open and ran down the stairs until darkness. I'm not sure what happened, but I awoke in pure darkness, and there was a gash on my right eye. The pain above my eye was throbbing, and I could feel the heartbeat in my ears and in the back of my head. As I blindly stretched my hand out to feel around in the darkness, I found what I assumed to be cement walls of the basement, cold, harsh, and rigid. The wall served as a guide through the darkness. There was no light source at all, and my eyes have yet to adjust to this harsh darkness that clouded me. As I blindly continued to feel my way around, I started to hear an unfamiliar noise. They sounded like footsteps coming from above me. I gulped my fear down my throat and contemplated what to do. Hello, TJ, anyone there? That was Joe's voice. There was a sense of salvation that I hadn't felt in a long time. Joe, I'm down here, in the basement, I screamed. I heard the door and beam of light appear from the top of the stairs. I started making my way toward the light source, where I met up with Joe. Fuck, I thought you were dead, Joe said as he smirked. What the fuck happened to your head? We walked up the stairs to the living room, where I collapsed on the couch. The bright lights of the living room caused my headache to intensify beyond belief. Joe grabbed me with wet cloths to stop the bleeding for a bit. Joe, are you okay? I said, looking at him with one eye closed. Yeah, why wouldn't I be? You're the one that I'm worried about. Look, I'm sorry for last night. You know, the whole leaving you behind thing. Just that shit really creeped me out, you know? I sighed. How did you know I was here? Joe smirked. Because you're like a real-life Scooby-Doo detective and some shit. I knew you'd be back here at some time after we found that shit. What happened last night after I left? Watch any of the other tapes? I didn't know how to talk to Joe about the tape that I received at the hotel, but I had to tell him what I saw. Do me a favor, all right? Go to my car and grab the tapes in the VCR. I have to show you something. Joe shook his head. I'm not watching any more of that shit. You must be crazy. Maybe I was. Joe, listen to me. It's important. Please. With a sigh, Joe went to my car and grabbed what I asked. When he walked back into the house, he threw the box of tapes and the VCR onto the couch. You set it up. You're welcome. Nice to see Joe is still as cheery as always. The tape with Joe and the creature was still in the VCR, so when I plugged it into the television and hit play, I told Joe to watch closely. Joe watched in horror as he saw himself standing with the creature directly behind him. When I left last night, I stayed at a hotel for the night. When I woke up, this is what I found. That's you, Joe. That's you and the creature. I don't remember any of this. What the fuck is going on? I don't know either. But this happened sometime last night after I left. Do you remember coming back last night? What? Fuck no, dude. When I left, I drove my ass right to Diana's, his girlfriend, and never looked back. I only came back here because I couldn't get a hold of you. I was getting worried. I figured you'd be back here. And lo and behold, there you were, in the basement, with a cut above your eye. Nothing seemed to make sense. Joe didn't remember coming back, but on that video, he was with the creature. Perhaps the creature followed Joe to Diana's and dragged him without him knowing. TJ, I don't remember any of that after I got to Diana's. Last thing I remember was falling asleep in bed and waking up the next morning. No dreams, no nightmares, nothing. This doesn't make sense. I placed my head into my hands in disbelief, trying to think of what this means. Joe stood up from the couch. Be fucking honest with me. Last night in the basement, did you see anything? You said you left to go to the hotel after I left, but I feel like you're not telling me the entire story. What did you see, TJ? I had to tell him. I went down there after you left to search around after hearing that noise. I saw the creature, Joe. It was more disturbing than I imagined. The creature lives in the basement. I saw all the life drain out of Joe as he looked at me in complete disbelief. Here's what we're gonna do. We're both gonna leave, lock the door, and never turn back. Let somebody else deal with this, TJ. If you were smart, you would do the same. Please, as your brother, I am begging you, leave. Just leave. Go back home. Reluctantly, I nodded with my head, grabbed my things, including the tapes and VCR. Leave them too. I couldn't just leave them. There were still 2 tapes to watch, and perhaps it provided clues as to what is this creature and how we can stop it. Let's make a deal. We'll watch these last 2, and then we'll leave and never look back. Sound good? Reluctantly, Joe agreed. I popped the next tape in, sat down on the couch, and prepared for the worst. The tape started out a little bit different from the others. It wasn't the basement, but rather Joe's bedroom, sleeping soundly in his Buzz Lightyear pajamas. It was Joe as a kid. I could tell this was causing Joe to feel uncomfortable, but for some reason, we just kept watching. Suddenly, young Joe sat up abruptly in his bed. His eyes were black as night, and he seemed to be in a trance. He left the room, walking as if he was sleepwalking. The camera continued to roll for what seemed to be like hours until young Joe made his way back into the camera. He laid back down and went to sleep as if nothing happened. Suddenly, our attention was brought toward the edge of the bed, where we saw a long, lanky hand reach out and grab the bedsheet. The creature stood up and stood over young Joe. The creature got over the top of the bed, quietly, and began to stare at Joe. Joe did not seem to notice, just like before. The creature began to drag its tongue across the cheek of young Joe before stepping off of the bed and disappearing into the background. The video ended shortly after. Jesus Christ, Joe. What the fuck was that? I stopped in mid-sentence as I looked over at Joe, who had a sick and demented smile on his face. His eyes were black as night, and there was a smell creeping into the room. An all too familiar scent. The scent of the creature. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you would like to see more creepypastas, make sure to like, comment, and if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe. We've got a lot of content and a lot more coming, so make sure to check that out. You can always go to my links in the description, like Twitter, Instagram, everything like that, including my Gmail if you want to submit a story. It can be true, it can be creepypasta, anything. But with that being said, stay safe, stay scary, and I'll see you in the next one.